G'day. You guys that know me, I'm Daniel. I've been asked to share with you a little bit about the Rosary. Um, and I'd just like to thank Mr. Marsh for giving me this opportunity to speak to you and for you guys being there willing to listen to this. For me, the Rosary is something that I've only learned about fairly recently. I've only been part of the Catholic Church for the last 5 or 6 years. And the Rosary is something that I'd never prayed with before, but in the last 2 years, it's become something that I pray fairly regularly, sometimes daily, but definitely a couple of times a week. And the reason I make the time to do that is because praying the Rosary is something that helps me stay close to Jesus. Now, you might think, how's this guy staying close to a bloke who hasn't been around here for 2,000 years? Well, one of the teachings of Christianity, one of the things I believe is that Jesus is alive and resurrected and that he can be present to us now. And one of the things the Rosary does is it meditates on 5 points of Jesus' life. There are 5 decades. And when I pray a Rosary, I use each decade to bring myself to where Jesus was in that moment of contemplation. So, say on a Thursday, there's usually a set of, they call it mysteries. You could think of them as stories of Jesus. There's a few sets of stories about Jesus. And on Thursday, which is today, it's called the Luminous Mysteries. And the first luminous mystery, so the first decade I'd be thinking about, is Jesus at a wedding feast in Cana. And it's at this place that he turned water into wine. And water is a symbol of life for the Israelites at the time of the writing and gestation of the scriptures. And wine is one step above life. It's joy. You know, you drink water to live, but you drink wine to celebrate and be joyful. And so Jesus turns water into wine. He turns just the life event of a wedding into something really joyful when he turns the water into wine. And so I think of myself at that wedding feast, and I see the water turning into wine, and I think about that idea of life being turned into joy. And straight away I've thought back to the last week, and I think, well, how has the everyday events of my life been transformed into something joyful? And I can see those things in the last week where that's happened. For instance, I received some really sad family news the other week, and someone I love dearly had to go to hospital. And through all of that, we received so much love from our friends and family, so many flowers, so many cards saying that we're thinking of you. And it was an experience that I prayed through as well. And because I was praying, I felt that God was very near to me and comforting me in that situation. And so I look back and I think, gosh, all these people showing me love, and I felt I was not abandoned by God through that stressful time of having a family member in hospital. And so I can see how just those everyday things of life have been transformed into something really joyful when I contemplate that mystery of Jesus turning water into wine. And also, I can be grateful for that. I can see what God is doing through Jesus in my life there and be grateful for it. Otherwise, I could just go through life and not see those gifts. And not be inspired to act out of those gifts. I mean, one of the beautiful things about gratitude and, giving thanks for things like the everyday things of life being turned into a joyful experience is that I can live out of that joy rather than just out of a normal life. So having contemplated Jesus doing that for me, I can then act out of a place of joy. And that's why a rosary is something that we pray with Mary. You know, pray a lot of Hail Marys. That's like 50 Hail Marys, 53 at least. Um, and the reason we do that is because Mary was the mother of Jesus. It was through Mary that Jesus was born into the world. And so when I'm praying the rosary, I'm also believing that by being close to Jesus, it'll be Jesus who is born out in my actions into the world. And that as I live my life, I will live it more joyfully, I'll live it more mercifully, I'll be forgiving of others, I'll have the endurance to persevere through hard times like Jesus did. And so that's why I pray the rosary, is both to see where Jesus is present to me in my life, but also to be fed and transformed by Jesus and to live out of that place of relationship with him.